Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. We're up to episode 8 of Covertape Chaos Zzapped this week, which features 2 full games and another batch of quality music for us to listen to. The magazine itself took advantage of Wimbledon fever and the fact that international 3D tennis was reviewed inside the pages, featuring a fantastic action pose of a male tennis player from Oliver Frey front and centre. Elsewhere in the magazine, the Creature Feature Diary began, charting the development of Creatures, which ended up being one of my favourite Commodore 64 games of all time when it was released. We'll talk about that game a bit more when the demo arrives on a future tape, but in the meantime, let's get on with the rest of this episode, shall we? Oh No has a strange concept that wouldn't feel at all out of place in a Jeff Minter game, yet this is another offering from those friends of Zzapped, Sensible Software. Your task is to protect your oxen from the alien rustlers that are out to steal them from under your nose. The oxen are represented by 5 different coloured orbs, and certain enemy types will collect them and try to bugger off with them. Other enemies will make life difficult for you by bouncing you around or warping you to another part of the screen, giving their thieving colleagues time to make off with your cattle. Your job is to survive 9 increasingly manic waves on a planet while protecting as many of your oxen as you can. Then you warp onto a new planet with a slightly different colour palette and harder enemies. Every so often you will get the opportunity to regain a lost oxen by killing a certain enemy type. While your ship is indestructible, should you lose all of your cattle, it's game over. Making things more challenging is the fact that your ship is affected by inertia, making it a mad scramble at times to get back to your oxen before they're pinched. This was released as a budget game back in the day, and if I had spent my $1.99 on it, I would have been quite pleased. While it isn't the deepest game, it is easy to pick up and play, and gives you an arcade-like experience on your C64. The gameplay actually reminds me of a much later game on the PC called The Horde, where you had to protect your livestock and crops from waves of pink monsters, except Oh No doesn't feature a shot between waves like The Horde did. All in all, I think this is a really fun game that I will definitely be playing my GPXD handheld whenever I have to start commuting back to my office again. Let's see what the Zzapped reviewers made of it, shall we? Paul Glancy liked the fast and frenetic action of the game and thought it made for a fun diversion between bigger titles. He summed up his thoughts with, "If you want something to pick up and play and fill an empty moment, there's not much going that beats this." Jazz Rignall was similarly positive about the game and loved the little humorous touches that Sensible scattered throughout. He concluded his mini-review by saying, "It's not the greatest budget blast around, but if you're looking to unleash some energy, this fits the bill." They ended up giving Oh No a pretty decent score of 80%, summing things up with an enjoyable, if ultimately limited, blast. I think that's a pretty fair assessment of the game, as it doesn't really hold much depth. It would be a fun one to do a high score challenge on though. Time to move on to our other full game, which is Dominion by Paul O'Malley, with music provided by Martin Walker. It would appear that this game was never actually officially released and was made available exclusively for this cover tape, so I don't have a Zzapped review to compare my thoughts to or any cover art to show you. There were at least some instructions for the game within Zzapped issue 62 thankfully. The game can be quite complicated, at least for new players, so having these to refer to was very handy indeed. Your task is to navigate the many corridors and levels of a space colony and deliver vital ore to construction teams that are working on radiation shields. There are 3 types of ore that have to be bought and sold from different outposts around the colony. The upper levels of the colony are easier to navigate and less risky, but you're not going to make the big bucks by staying up there. Instead, you have to delve a bit deeper if you want to make a decent profit. As well as basic navigation and shooting with the joystick, you can also use a tractor beam if within range, which is useful for picking up alien technology that can be traded for useful things like shields. In addition to that, you have separate throttle controls for your left and right engines, and a video adjust button should your feed become dark due to interference caused by radiation. That's quite a lot of buttons to try and keep track of. Dominion features flight style controls where pushing up moves your craft down and vice versa. When you first want to accelerate at the start of the game, it's important that you increase both engines to the same level, or you will be sent careening into the left and right walls. I struggled to get into Dominion in the fairly limited time I had to spend with it. I could do with a guide on how to play it by someone with prior knowledge, but I was unable to find anything on YouTube when I had a look. It's an interesting game, that's for sure, and the 3D tunnels look quite convincing, but it will take some patience to get into it fully. Things are rounded out this episode with another selection of music, this time from Apex Computer Productions, who have worked on amazing Commodore 64 games like Creatures 1 and 2 and Mayhem in Monsterland. I didn't personally recognise which game these tunes were taken from. It could be Retrograde, but I'm not sure because I haven't played that game myself yet. Before I bring this episode to a close, let's listen to some of the tunes for a bit. Great stuff. So overall this tape has definitely given me a new arcadey blaster for me to put on my list of games to play while commuting, and another game to look into further so that I can understand it fully. That brings us to the end of another Covertape Chaos Zzapped for now though. If you enjoyed this video then please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, dropping a comment and sharing on social media. I'll be back once again with the next episode in 2 weeks' time, so I'll hopefully see you then. In the meantime, take care.